Jared, I know I'm really valuable to you, but I think I'm just going to go and I'm just going to intentionally become poor so that I can learn more about God. What's up, Jared?
What's up, Joel? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good on this podcast Wednesday of ours.
Dude, I love me a podcast Wednesday. I was looking forward to it. I'm excited to be here. It's definitely not take two or anything.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
It's so funny, like when we start these podcasts, because we're talking before, and then we're like, "Okay, let's start," and then it's just a funny moment, It's like, "Oh,
Sure,
podcast started," even though we've been talking for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it is very funny because it's just a really hard stop and then a pause and then it's like I just ran into you. It is kind of funny.
Yeah. Anyway, how you doing, boss?
Dude, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Like I was saying on the unaired podcast. Wait, go ahead. What are you gonna say?
I heard you were working out regularly now.
Yeah, dude. Well, my program starts Monday, but I hired a coach.
Haven't even started yet?
No, I haven't even started yet, but that's okay because I hired a coach. My first Zoom call with him is tomorrow. And then because I don't have my meal plan, I don't have any of that stuff yet because they're still working on it. And then I start Monday with whatever he tells me to do. And
cool.
I've been waking up at 4 so that I can read the Bible, I can journal. Right now I do extra work in the morning just so I can get caught up or stay where I need to be. But eventually that'll transition to just reading books, which I'm super excited about. Because there's a lot of books I need to read and to learn about stuff. Because I got to increase all my skills, right? Like I got to get better at tons and tons of stuff, which I'm really excited because it's fun to learn new things and then apply it. Yeah. And then you just throw working in or working out with that, and it just sort of creates this whole new rhythm. That's fun. So it's really fun.
Yeah, morning routine's super important. And I think journaling is super important as well. I was just looking at my journal right here earlier today. Actually, just a couple hours ago. I was looking at it probably like 8 months ago, what I was writing down. And it's crazy how much of that stuff is like already come to pass.
Yeah, because your method of journaling, can you explain your method of journaling?
So it's kind of changed over the last few months. But I started journaling, I would write down I would use it kind of to dream. So I would use it to where I want to be, right? So do I want to have a house in Florida, for instance, or, how much money do I want to make a year? And so I would write down, I make this much money every year. I have a house in Florida. My plumbing business is at this point, right? I would just specify those things and write them down as if they already happened. Now I kind of write in the beginning. I write, I was trying to, I've gone from living in Fairbanks, Alaska to moving to Florida, running a business from afar, having another business going, working on another business, starting up here. And it's been real weird. Like my life is just different. So I've been trying to really hone in on what I want out of life. So now I write down every morning what I want out of life, because I find that those things like the house and the material goods and living in Florida and all that, it's not really enough to keep me motivated anymore.
Yeah, sure.
I got to find bigger reasons, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I found that those things don't really make me that happy either. It's not, I mean, I love it and I enjoy it. And I feel very blessed to be where I'm at. But the things that actually make me happy are not the big house, whatever car. I don't even care about cars, so I can't use that one.
No, you can't.
Where I live, the house I live in, how much money we have to spend or how much money we make. None of that actually makes me happy. Yeah. Over the last few years, the things that have made me happy have been totally different. Like being able to give to things, being able to take people out to dinner and pay for it, $1,000 meals. Being able to, I leave really big tips now because I can, and I freaking love it. Things like that. That's what really, really, really makes me happy. So then I've been trying to think about okay, what is that bigger picture? How does that play out in my life overall? And where do I want my life to go so that I can do more of these things that actually are going to make me happy and bring me joy? And at the end of my life go, okay, I actually lived, a good life. I didn't just waste it on these stupid things. Right.
Yeah, sure. For sure.
Yeah. Anyway, So now that's my new journal. I also added in that I think everybody should do. I wish I'd done it like years ago. I write down today, and then I write down what I'm going to do today. So the things I need to get done today to move my business forward. So
Gotcha.
really, so I'm setting my mind on, first of all, what's actually going to make me happy, what's actually going to bring me joy in life, so that I can make sure my actions align with those today. Then I write down the things that are actually going to like move the needle in my business.
Sure.
And super helpful, because then I take my journal throughout the day and I cross those things off as I get them done.
Right.
And when I get those things done, I know, okay, I did the top tasks, like the things that I know that I had to get done in order to move my business forward. I got them done. And now I can just go do, work on other stuff that is maybe a little farther out or not as important. Right.
How do you organize your brainstorm thoughts?
What do you mean by that?
So for me, I have like tons of thoughts that come into my head about whatever task I'm doing and how to optimize it, how to make it better. And when I'm doing multiple things, like if I'm doing sales, if I'm doing design, if I'm doing management, like all these thoughts come in like, oh, I should think about this and try to do this. And like, oh yeah, AI would make this really easy. How can I implement AI? And then I find if I just keep a running brainstorm list, it's just it's not helpful because it's not categorized. And so I'm like, okay, well then what I can do is I can break into categories and have a brainstorm list on each one. And even that, it's a step in the right direction, but it's not perfect.
Yeah.
And then like a lot of the times I'll write down my ideas in my journal, but then to flip back and like find the idea isn't practical for me either. So I was wondering if you have a similar experience or if you just do something different.
So I've tried doing all that stuff. I just don't do it anymore. I don't really write down my ideas. I do what I like to call think time. So if I know there's a problem that I'm having or something that I've got to do that I need to think through, or like I'm just going to give you an example here. So I'm working on creating a course. So the other day, or actually the last like 2 or 3 days, in the morning during my morning routine, I go out to my porch with my coffee, read my Bible, journal, I pray, and then I open my journal back up and I write down my course, and I just start thinking through my course, and I intentionally like focus my brain on that one thing first thing in the morning where there's no distractions. I haven't checked my email, haven't looked at social media, none of that, haven't looked at my calendar or anything.
Right.
And I just think through that one thing. Right. And I'm only going to do that for things that I actually need to think through. Like only going to do that for activities that are going to have major payback in my life. So they're either going to make me more money, they're going to give me more time, or they're going to give me more happiness.
Right. Sure. Your high leverage activities.
Yes. Highest leverage activity that I can come up with. Right. And that's going to be different for everyone. So like for a plumbing business owner, like if I would have done that a long time ago, like when I was building my price book, I would have sat down first thing in the morning and I would have said, okay, I'm going to build out the bathroom section of my price book.
Right.
Or I'm just going to come out with a layout for it. Right. Then the next day I said, okay, I'm going to come up with the options for the bathroom portion of my price book, and so on and so on and so on. Just allow yourself this time just to narrow in on one thing. Right.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good idea, because then you can sort of implement those ideas that you have about that thing, but then you can just immediately put them into practice. And then you don't have to sit there and think high level about them, wanting to come back and drill down with them when you have a moment.
Yep. And so now I know, like this week I've thought through my overall business funnel, and I've thought through my course, and I have it all in my journal. It's all in there. My funnel is laid out on its own page, well thought out. My course is laid out on its own page, well thought out. Now, when I go to implement it, I just have to go back to my journal, take a look at it, and go implement it. And usually, like if I have it pretty well figured out in my journal, I'll go into like Google Docs.
Sure.
Put it in a Google Doc. Just so I know where it's at.
Yep. Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah. This is a really dumb realization I just had, because sometimes I'm like, but if I write something in my journal, how am I going to find it? But the reality of just like flipping a couple of pages back and just looking take me like, even if I had to go through the whole book, it would take me no more than 10 minutes. Like that's a really long time to find the idea. So for me, it was always like almost up into this moment where it's like, well, if I write it in here, then I'm going to have to find it. So I should just put it in the digital space because it's easier to find, which is not true because there's way more crap in my digital ecosystem that I have to look through, where the journal is a much simpler answer to that. Because like for me, I usually hesitate writing out my like raw practical ideas, and it's much more of lists of ideas and things that I should think about that I actually don't really go back and refer to. Because for me, it's like the act of just putting something on paper just brings it to life in my brain and life, and then I can just sort of, it just helps to solidify. Like I've tried to do journaling like on a like computer to aid with organization. I've tried to do it on like a tablet with a pen, and like, dude, nothing. I hate it. It all sucks. So I always just go back to paper.
Yeah, me too. There's something about being with your pen and your paper and actually physically writing something down that is, I don't know, it's magical. No, it sticks in my head more, and then it's easier for me to like slow down and think about something versus the computer. I'm like, I get all over the board, and then I want to go check my email or something.
You got like 12 tabs open before you know it. Brainstorm list for every hour of the day.
There's no distractions on my journal, when you've got pen and paper, and I'm outside when I do it, and all I've got is my coffee. There's like no distractions until my neighbor starts working out and he blares his music. Other than that, we're good. He literally like blares Macarena every morning. I'm
really?
like,
the song, the Macarena? Like, dude, is he like, so in elementary school, we had that. Yeah, he's probably just sitting on an exercise ball doing the dance. That's probably what he's doing. That's what I did in elementary school, Macarena, Maca 2, Macarena 3, Macarena.
Yeah.
Those are the words, by the way, if you're wondering. It's just counting and saying Macarena.
Big dude out there just going to town, working out, listening to the Macarena. It's the funniest thing. 7 o'clock every morning.
Sounds kind of trolly. Like he sounds like he's just trolling. Like he's just like, say
loud
something.
Too. Like he's a long ways away from me. He's not my neighbor. He's like,
okay. He's like in your neighborhood.
He's like a half mile away.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for his neighbors. 7 a.m.
What if do you think is he going to be my neighbor? Or where is he at? Is he near my house?
I hope so.
I hope he's near Alex's house. Although you guys are really close, so
you'll hear him for sure.
That's awesome. I can't wait to have the shared experience of like Macarena guy.
It's gonna be cool.
We should all blast Macarena at 7 a.m. together. And then just support him, Yeah. That's how you make friends, Jared. Right there.
Yeah. Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
Can I come work out with you?
We like the same music, I see.
We like the same tunes, so why not?
Yeah. Oh man, that's cool. I want to say one more thing on journaling and the physical side of it is like I have like 6 or 7 of these now. And so like in the back of my head, like, this is probably like a romantic idea to some extent, but at the back of my head, I'm like, one day I'll be able to just give my kids all of my thoughts in these books. And if they care, which they may or may not care, they could go through and read them and look at them.
You're really going to hold on to all of your journals for that long?
I mean, I only have 6.
And your kids will read them?
Not in hopes, because I have them anyway. Like, what am I going to do? Just throw it away?
Yeah.
Like, it seems like a waste to just chuck it.
Why?
Do you chuck yours when you're done?
Yeah. Heck yeah.
You just like
I would finish
them like right in the trash.
My last one over. Like this is my old one right here. It's kind of small, right?
Yeah.
And then this is my new one right here. It got a lot bigger. By the way, I like the bigger one better because there's more room to like brainstorm.
I'm gonna go with the bigger one next time around too.
But like this one's full, and I was just looking at it this morning. That's why I was looking at some of the stuff that I used to write down. This one's getting chucked. I was just thumbing through it real quick, seeing, it's nice to go back and look and be like, man, I've come a long way. It's cool. Chuck.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to go back to these ideas.
I've had no desire to read my old ones. Like even when I've like leafed through them, like I see what I wrote, and it's kind of funny because it's like I can see what I wrote, and then I can immediately remember pretty clearly where I was and what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And so like I don't really remember any times when I like leafed through them. I didn't read them like word for word, but I leafed through them, and there wasn't a moment where I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I thought that." It was just kind of like, "Oh yeah, I remember this part of my life and like how I did this."
It's really cool if you write down specific goals to then go back and go, because you forget once you achieve your goals, you kind of forget about them.
Yeah, it's
But
funny
then
that
if you
way.
go see them written down again, and you're like, "Dang, I wrote that down for like a year."
Yeah, especially with your
But then
strategy
I
where that was like your thing.
but then I stopped because I got it, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, I think there's huge power to it. It just keeps, like, what's important to you top of mind.
Yeah, sure,
At
of
the beginning
course.
of the day, you're like, "This is what's important to me. This is where
Mhm,
I'm going,"
mhm,
and, um, kinda just renewed energy and direction in your life every single morning. I think it's
mhm.
super, super important to be successful. Um, I don't I don't know how people deal without it, right?
Yeah, I don't really well, trying to think,
And then,
like
like you said, Joel, like, if you stack that with so that, like, takes care of your mental space, right?
mhm,
If you stack it with, like, reading the Bible and praying, whether I mean, you could read the Bible if you're not a Christian even, but, you know, even if you just do something, spiritual in nature that really just lifts up your spirit.
sure.
So you
Mhm,
kinda stack these things. You stack the journaling, the
mhm,
your time, the think time with
mhm,
something spiritual to kinda anchor you in that because 'cause we're spiritual beings, and then
mhm.
with some physical activity, so working out,
Sure.
man, you have like, if you do that in the morning first thing, if you can take care of those things,
Mhm, mhm.
you have just taken care of yourself, right? You have
Right.
made yourself
Yep.
right
Mhm.
before you go out into the world and try to do stuff out in the world, right?
Yeah, it's,
You
yeah, it's yeah.
you have just set yourself up for success.
Mhm,
I've always a big believer in, you gotta take care of yourself before you take care of anyone else.
mhm,
Um, like even growing up in church, people would say, and I'm probably this is gonna get a lot of backlash, but people, they preach tithing in church, which I have no
mhm,
problem with people tithing to church. Um,
mhm,
but what I do have a problem with is when people want to tithe to church, but they don't have their own finances in order, right? They don't have their life
mhm,
in order. And then the
mhm,
church is asking them for money
mhm.
and they don't have money to give, but they're giving it anyways. Which
Right.
we could argue about that a lot probably. Some
Mhm,
people would say they need to give that money and then they'll be blessed by God. I think that God gave them a brain, and I think that God wants you to use it and he wants you to learn how to manage your money with the brain and
mhm,
then give the excess money that you have. I don't
mhm.
think he wants you to live beyond your means and then give money you don't have.
Yeah.
I think he wants you to learn to live below your means and then give out
Sure,
of the
yeah.
excess that you do have.
Mhm,
And then
mhm,
I think he wants you to constantly try to get more access so that you can go give more, right?
mhm. Yeah, I kinda
Um,
think that, like I mean, to me, like, acquiring wealth is just sort of a product of the activities that you do.
mhm.
And so it's like in my mind, it's not a focus like it used to be. Because like essentially once you sort of make enough money to where you can meet all your needs, you don't have to worry about those basic things like food, gas, living expenses, then like driving to this next material paycheck goal is I would say it's sort of superficial in the sense that it will let you down. Like, I mean, you were already speaking about this, where it's like if you just make your income your goal, once you hit that mark, then you're like, oh, well, okay, I got there. And probably by the time you get there, you're already thinking of different things.
Yep.
Um, and so it's just like speaking to the idea of that, like to go out and make money so that you can do something with that money. But in my mind, the focus is just like, I'm just going to go out and I'm just going to do what I'm good at and then continue to amass skills that I can be more useful and more better. And
Yeah.
then just the inherent reward with that is more money. It's
Yes.
just like goes hands in hand. So if somebody says, "Hey man, it's almost like there's this weird idea that it's better to be poor than it is to be rich." Um like there's more of an innate righteousness within the poor person than there is the rich person. And I think in some senses I can see where that is correct in the way that like okay, now you have to really rely on God and all these different things. But I don't know, for me then to be like, Jared, I know I'm really valuable to you, but I think I'm just going to go and I'm just going to intentionally become poor so that I can learn more about God.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I don't think I could ever do that. because it just goes against my entire being and like
No.
what I like, how I live. And so
Yeah.
it's just hard for me to like walking into that. My wife would think I was crazy. My kids wouldn't really understand what that meant. And then their view of God would be this, in my opinion, a weird view where
Mhm.
God made dad be poor so that
Mhm.
we could suffer and learn more about God. And so, yeah, I mean, to me, like, again, making money is just the product of doing things well.
Yeah.
And then when you make money, you need to increase your stewardship of that so that you continue to do it well. Cause it's just
Yeah.
another area. It's like money is a skill, right? So,
Yep.
like, having money, learning how to use it is just another skill. Like
Yeah.
learning how to do plumbing, learning how to drive a car. These are just skills that you do. And so, okay, I have money. Now I have to learn the skill of using this money. And part of that is stewardship. And part of that will be giving it away because there's
Mhm.
so many benefits to that. I mean, you spoke about that. Like even when you were talking about like giving people higher tips, I never even considered that, but I've been
Mhm.
intentionally giving people more tips and it's so fun. Like it's actually a
Good.
really easy like to anybody who's listening, if you want like an easy way to make your day better, go to a
Yeah.
coffee shop and tip 100%. And then like,
Yeah.
buy an $8 drink and then tip $8 and
Yeah.
then just watch and they're going to be like, hey, thanks. And you're gonna be like, man, you're welcome. Like it's such a
Yeah.
small hit of gratitude, but it's so fun. Like it really is fun that like I look at it, I'm like, man, I want to get to the point where I can tip 100% on everything
Yeah.
because it's just a really fun experience. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just such a small little thing, but it can really stack up. And like the reactions you get are always different too. So it's not even like this repeatable thing where like I got bored of tipping a bunch, Jared. Everybody just, they don't appreciate it anymore because everybody
Right.
appreciates it. It's really fun.
Yeah. And it's cool because usually like the jobs where you tip, right? It's usually like a waitress or a barista or something like that, where they pretty
Yeah.
much live off tips. Or like my
Hmm.
bartender. I was
Hmm.
my bartender, my barber. uh, like so,
Yeah,
like
you
my
wish. You
yeah,
wish.
I got a personal bartender.
Yeah, and your personal piano
I,
player,
I
you know?
tip him well. No,
Yeah.
my barber. I was talking to him, and he's like,
Mhm.
I was like, my haircut's $35. He doesn't pay for the seat; it gets paid by the hour. And so I'm looking at this. He can do like 8 haircuts a day. I'm doing the math. He's right downtown Pensacola. The rent has to be astronomical. And I'm like, there's no way this guy's getting paid a lot. And I asked him, so you pretty much live off tips, huh? And he's like, yeah, without the tips, I couldn't be here. So I'm like, man, so tips make this guy's job worth it. And I'm sure it's the same
Mhm.
for the restaurant industry, for the barista industry,
Yep.
probably for most industries where you would tip those individuals, right?
Mhm.
And so it's cool to be able to go in there. You get to support a local, like usually it's a local business, local restaurant,
Mhm.
local barbershop, local coffee shop.
Mhm.
Those are where I go. So I'm supporting a local business by going there and buying their service. But then you're also supporting that local business by giving a big tip to the employee because now it makes
Right.
the job worth it for the employee to be there. And
Right.
you get that employee extra money in his pocket, which they probably
Mhm.
need. And so to
Mhm.
me, it's cool. You get to support a person that's out there already working, already trying hard,
Right.
already,
Mhm.
they're not just sitting at home collecting welfare. They're at work,
Sure.
right?
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
way better start. To me, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, sweet dude, keep it up. Like I hope
Yeah.
you get out of here. I hope this extra 20 or $30 I gave you
Mhm.
helps you move on in your life.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it's just cool. You get to support the local business and the local person. I love it. It's like my
And I
favorite thing.
think it and I think it's one of the most practical ways to do that that is more intentional and more real than like round up to the nearest cent at your grocery store for the whatever flavor of the
Yeah.
month. Cuz like to
I
me,
never do that.
I don't do it either
I don't do it.
ever
I
since
don't
you're
do
like
it.
what are you supporting? Like you don't
Yeah.
know.
Who knows?
And
What
what
it
if you're
like
supporting like a crappily run industry that like shouldn't exist but it only exists because people give it money?
yeah.
And And so it's like ever since I heard that, I was like, yeah, that doesn't really make sense. Like I don't know about these places well enough. And if I
Mhm.
do, like there's a couple exceptions in Fairbanks where like, like the door is one place where I'm like, oh yeah, I know that one. Like I actually do it. Yeah, I will round up for the door. But these other
Yep.
ones, I don't really know what's going on there. But to just go somewhere and then tip, like that's such a more real way to actually help out something directly. And then it's not fed through the machine of like, all right, well, he tipped $1, so 25 of that goes to the store, 25 of that goes to the profit who's organizing the tips, right? That's funneling this money, and then the rest goes there. It's like, it's never just a straight like, oh, you round it up. Okay, Safeway is going to take 100% of that and then give it right to the person who needs it. It's going to go through the channels, and then somebody's going to get a little bit of something. So just go tip your barber.
Yeah, it's cool. And like going back to that, like, I don't think I would be in a place to tip well if I didn't sit down and take care of myself first.
Right.
By sitting down and taking the time out of my day in the morning to journal, to exercise, to get my mind right, to get my spirit right, and to educate myself. So in taking care of myself, so I learned how to take care of myself, and I have now learned how to take care of, other people in my business, and then other businesses. And now that I'm making really good money, now it's going out into like community, right? All because I decided to take care of myself first. So I think it's super important. I think a lot of business owners really struggle with that because they're so busy trying to make the next buck. They're working 80 hours trying to make sure the business is running. They think that the more they're there, the better off the business is going to be. And they don't take the time to get their mind right, to get their spirit right, to get their health right. So they're eating like crap. They're not, exercising, and it ends up just hurting them in the long run, right? Because I know, because I've done both. I've been the guy who didn't do the journal, didn't do the Bible reading, didn't do the exercising, and I tried just waking up and hammering out work.
Right.
And I got a lot of like physical work done, but I was never able to build something to leverage other people's time, right? I was never able to build anything that really like brought me long-term value.
Right.
Because I didn't have the skills to, and I didn't have the internal reflection in order to go, I can use other people's time to make me money. I didn't have time to think about that, right? Because I was too busy trying to hammer out, let me go put this next water heater in, or let me go tune this next boiler, or, something like that. I got to make this extra buck. Just work. And I did that for years. And I never got ahead for years. And it wasn't until I started taking time to intentionally put into myself that I was actually able to like leverage other people's time, leverage a business to create more money, more freedom, more time. So I think it all starts with the individual.
Yeah, man, that makes a ton of sense. I mean, we could talk about this for hours because that can easily transfer into like, I mean, so many things.
Yeah.
Like the biggest obstacle to your success in your business is you.
It's so funny, dude, because like you see it in sales calls, right?
I do.
You're like, oh man, why is this guy thinking like this? What is he doing, right? And you can see it. But that guy that you're talking to, he's got no idea. No clue.
And like I always try to, and it's like I've been in that position too. It's just like I have no idea, even though I know that I'm the one who's in front or who's the obstacle. Right. But like when you get that moment of clarity and that moment of humility, when you're like, oh crap, like I'm actually the one who's the problem here. There's a lot of freedom in that, because what I always tell people on these calls, I'm like, that's the best problem to have, because that's a problem that you can actually do something about. Because there's so many things that you can't change. Like you can't change this, you can't change this. He's gonna always do that. You can't change him. But me, I have a shot at that. I can fix that. I can put the work in and go get a coach, do what I need to do so that I can wake up early and actually do the hard work of getting fit and learning and junk. But then so you can actually do something about that.
Yeah. It's the one thing you have control over. Is yourself. So get it right.
Yeah. Put some time into it. Wake up early. Do it.
Wake up.
Do whatever you got to do.
Journal, exercise. Just do it.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny when you have to wake up early, you end up having to go to bed early, which is cool because when you set your priorities as the first things you do, then the last thing you did the day before is setting you up for success for the most important things in your life.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool paradigm to have, because then your whole day is sort of feeding towards this moment where you go, no, I need to go to bed now, or else I won't be able to accomplish the most important thing tomorrow.
Yep.
And then that's a beautiful thing, because then your day is bookended by maximum importance. Your day starts with the most important and it ends with setting up for the next most important. And then everything else in the middle, you just get better at doing, because you have these hard blocks of like, nope, I have to do this here and I have to do this here. So I need to get everything done here. I don't have an option to go over. It just won't work.
Yep, exactly. It all starts the night before.
Yeah, dude.
Cool, man.
Sweet, man. That was awesome. Thanks. I appreciate your thoughts and your time.
Good talk, boss.
Yeah, man. I'll see you next time.
Okay, see ya. Hey, guys, if you liked that episode and you want to see more content like that, I picked out a special episode just for you. All you got to do is click right here. Go ahead and do it. Just click right there.